Black mask on, running through the crib and shit. One nigga run to the front door. I hop out, I start shooting. Bow, 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 bow. Shot the nigga. Bow, shot his ass. Bow, 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 bow. All the niggas run out the door, they run out the door. This nigga on the floor.
The paper trail. Let's go, 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 go. Yeah, 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 yeah. For the love of money, niggas come around. For the love of money, some stay around. For the love of money, what a nigga will do. For the love of the money, yeah. I gotta shake it 12 at night to 5 in the morning. They don't give a fuck now. If it's for the money, niggas gon' bark and they bite like a motherfucking dog. Gotta party like a motherfucking dog. For that cat, I am gon' roof and I'm barking at that cat, and I am gon' take the roof off and I'm riding that ride. Rip niggas to the left, but I'm steady on the only right. I'm swerving with a purpose, A nigga been sipping on that purple. A nigga been cheaping on that purple. Cause I'm getting money, Cause I'm getting money. And I'm laughing all the way to the motherfucking bank. And I'm telling her, tell me later if she thinking what I'm thinking. Damn me getting money. I woke up.
अरे मोदी ये ले मेरा जवाब कैसा लगा रब दे देता है कमाई को रब ये मेरी किक मेरी शक्ल ये इलीगल किक है सब देता हमारे आज के विनर ट्रम्प हैं
Here is what happened in geopolitics in the last 24 hours. Iran vows revenge for U.S. Karg Island bombing and threatens retaliation. China warns Iran, war flames spreading to Asia, urges immediate ceasefire. Saudi Arabia cancels April F1 race due to Iran war security risks. UAE Fujairah port halts oil loading after drone attack amid Iran war. Britain discusses options to secure Hormuz Strait amid Iran war threats. Trump urges Japan send warships to Hormuz Strait for shipping safety. Iran war hits India oil imports economy with Russian supply issues. U.S. lifts Russian oil sanctions, drawing European criticism amid Iran war. France highlights Middle East defense pushes to secure Hormuz policy as flawed.
Bang, bang. Coming from the ghetto, anything goes. Now, like I've said before, everything you hear me say is all my opinion. And if you can prove anything that I say, great. Job well done. And every video that I play are those people's opinion. So embrace yourself. Because coming from the ghetto, anything goes. Bang, bang.
Intelligence did not become enraged over injustice. They question nothing and accept everything said and done to them. Men with low intelligence do not become enraged over injustice. They question nothing and accept everything said and done to them.
Days before Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his Manhattan jail cell, attorney David Schoen met with him for 5 hours. Epstein was optimistic and looking forward to a bond hearing. But a few days earlier, his former cellmate, Nicholas Tartaglione, had placed something around his neck as part of a so-called experiment. Tartaglione was a former cop on trial for murdering 4 people.
Why is Nick Tartaglione, rogue Briarcliff cop, according to my sources, and you'd be surprised where they pop up? Everywhere I go, somebody's got something to tell me.
During Nicholas Tartaglione's long-awaited sentencing, the victim's family called him a monster and an animal Monday inside White Plains federal court.
I didn't do this, and I have the evidence.
Epstein had been housed with a former cop and accused killer for what really happened inside the Metropolitan Correctional Center.
There's video clear as day. He's the only person in there and the only person coming out. You can see it.
The pathway from the entrance to the stairs is completely out of view of the camera, leaving ample room for someone to enter unseen.
We're going to give the original so you don't think there were any shenanigans.
Experts told CBS News the video's metadata shows it's made from 2 clips edited together. Then at 11:58 p.m., the video suddenly jumps to midnight and the aspect ratio shifts.
Details sketchy at this hour, with investigators now trying to get answers.
He may not have known it, but he was stepping down.
He may not have known that he was stepping down. That's your testimony today?
He was being removed.
Men with low intelligence do not become enraged over injustice. They question nothing and accept everything said and done to them.
Today, I want to talk about just like the weird things and people surrounding Epstein's last days and the people involved, like Bill Barr and his father, Donald Barr, the Epstein-Barr connection. And much like herpes, which is what the Epstein-Barr virus is, it keeps coming back up again because Bill Barr really was in charge of the investigation. There were a lot of things that the public was just supposed to take Bill's word for. And even when there was the Senate hearing that he seemed very irritated that he had to be at, he was saying things that it was like the question was basically, again, taking his word for it. And it's hard to take someone's word for it when there's so many weird connections because Bill Barr's father, Donald Barr, not only does he have a very strong connection with Epstein in that he hired, but also he wrote the most weird ass book, okay, that is very similar to what Jeffrey Epstein and his associates are accused of. So let's talk about this book, okay? This book is called The Space Relations. What is this book about? It is about a planet that is ruled by oligarchs who in children. Is so fucking weird. Donald Barr wrote this book 1 year before he hired Jeffrey Epstein. This is a New York Times article from February 20th, 1974. And the headline is Barr quits Dalton school post charging trustees interference. It says Donald Barr, the controversial book is called The Space Road by oligarchs who engage in the sexual slavery of children. Is so fucking weird. Donald Barr wrote this book 1 year before he hired Jeffrey Epstein. This is a New York Times article from February 20th, 1974. And the headline is Barr quits Dalton school post charging keeps coming back up again because Bill Barr really was in charge of the investigation. There were a lot of things that the public was just supposed to take Bill's word for. And even when there was the Senate hearing that he seemed very irritated that he had to be at, he was saying things that it was like the question was basically, again, taking his word for it. And it's hard to take someone's word for it when there's so many weird connections because Bill Barr's father, Donald Barr, not only does he have a very strong connection with Epstein in that he hired a very unqualified 21-year-old Jeffrey Epstein who had no college degree to be a math and physics teacher at an elite school, Dalton, in Manhattan. But also he wrote the most weird ass book, okay, that is very similar to what Jeffrey Epstein and his associates are accused of. So let's talk about this book, okay? This book is called The Space Relations. What is this book about? It is about a planet that is ruled by oligarchs who engage in the sexual slavery of children. It's so fucking weird. Donald Barr wrote this book 1 year before he hired Jeffrey Epstein. This is a New York Times article from February 20th, 1974. And the headline is Barr quits Dalton school post charging trustees interference. It says Donald Barr, the controversial and outspoken headmaster of the Dalton School, one of the city's largest and most selective private schools, has resigned because he fears the trustees' interference with his leadership. An additional source of friction between Mr. Barr and the board seems to be the board's hiring of an outside committee to study the school and to assess its operation under Mr. Barr. Interesting. Donald Barr announced his resignation on February 20th of 1974, but he actually stayed on until the end of the school year. So keep that in mind. 1974 is also the year that Donald Barr hired Jeffrey Epstein. Then I found this other article that talked to students who were Epstein students at the time in the 70s, and what they had to say was not good. In the mid-70s, students at one of New York's most esteemed prep schools were surprised to encounter a new teacher who pushed the limits on the school's dress code, wandering the halls in a fur coat, gold chains, and an open shirt that exposed his chest. It's giving pimp, bitch. Slap. This article was, by the way, published July 12th, 2019. At the Dalton School on the Upper East Side, some students saw Mr. Epstein as an unusual and unsettling figure, willing to violate the norms in his encounter with girls. 8 former students who attended the prestigious school during Mr. Epstein's short tenure there said that his conduct with teenage girls had left an impression that had lingered for decades. One former student recalled him showing up at a party where students were drinking, while most remembered his persistent attention on the girls in hallways and classrooms. I can remember thinking at the time, this is wrong, said Scott Spicer, who graduated from Dalton in 1976. But a few students said they had been discomfited by a close relationship he had with one of their female peers, a concern that had escalated so much that one of them had raised the issue then to a school administrator. Dalton has long been known for its rigorous academics, repeatedly ranking among the nation's best private schools, while drawing the sons and daughters of New York's titans of finance, media, and art. Among the alumni are the CNN journalist Anderson Cooper, the actress Claire Danes, Mrs. Chin Quiver herself, and the comedian Chevy Chase. Mr. Epstein's time at Dalton was brief, and an administrator said it ended in a dismissal. The administrator told the Times that he had dismissed Mr. Epstein for poor performance. Mr. Epstein from Brooklyn was just 21 when he joined the faculty, arriving without a college degree. Millicent Young, a graduate of the school's 1976 class, she recalled observing Mr. Epstein flirting with the girls at the school, which drew her attention because it was so different from how the other teachers behaved. There was a real clarity of the inappropriateness of the behavior, that this isn't how adult male teachers conduct themselves, Ms. Young said. Mr. Pfizer, the fellow student who graduated the same year, said he had a clear recollection of disliking Mr. Epstein because he was spending so much time with the girls in the school. Some other students spoke on the condition of anonymity, fearing retribution from Mr. Epstein. One recalled that he had made efforts to spend time with her outside the school, and she remembered raising concerns about Mr. Epstein's conduct with another student to Mr. Dunnan. An attorney for Mr. Dunnan said the former headmaster had not been aware of any concerns about Mr. Epstein's conduct at the school. And then the new headmaster, Mr. Dunnan, is also a creep, because it says here that Mr. Dunnan faced allegations of his own inappropriate conduct. A former Dalton student said in a lawsuit that she had been invited to live with Mr. Dunnan at age 14 and had suffered repeated sexual assaults under his care. Mr. Dunnan denied the allegations, of course, because is he going to admit to that? I mean, who has, who will, who did? Another student who also requested anonymity, fearing reprisals from Mr. Epstein, recalled seeing Mr. Epstein at a high school party in an apartment on the Upper East Side where students were drinking and socializing. And Mr. Epstein was the only teacher there, which raised eyebrows among the students. It was weird, said another former student, Paul Grossman, a 1978 graduate who did not attend the party but remembered hearing about it. Everyone talked about it, he said. There's also this intelligence angle because Donald Barr and Bill Barr, his son, both have connections to the CIA. So Donald Barr actually served in the OSS, which is the Office of Strategic Services, which is the precursor to the CIA in World War II. Then also Bill Barr, Donald Barr's son, worked for the CIA in the 70s before he became a lawyer and before he started working for the Trump administration. So you've got father and son. So that seems like deep familial ties. Additionally, he was a huge part of the investigation that happened after Jeffrey Epstein's death. Guess what? I want you to pay attention to this timeline. This article came out on July 12th, 2019. July 6th is when Epstein was arrested and put in MCC. In the middle of July, so a few days roughly after this article comes out, Nicholas Tartaglione is now his cellmate for whatever reason. 10 days after that is the July 23rd incident where Jeffrey Epstein says Nicholas Tartaglione tried to kill him. Then he changes his story. They conclude the investigation that he did it to himself. Are they setting up the scene for something? And then he's put in another cell. First, he's put on watch. Then he's got a cellmate. Then that cellmate is removed a day before. All the cameras are glitching and the security guards are lying about whatever, falsifying records. And then he's found dead. And then Bill Barr comes out and says it's a perfect storm of errors. And then he also starts firing people. And then he also says, I saw the footage. We recovered it. I saw it. There's nothing to see here. And then the prosecutor is the one who's like, wait, no, we need to investigate this. We need to look into it. And Bill Barr's like, hey, you need to resign. And then announces he resigned. And then the guy's like, I didn't resign. And then he sends them a letter and he says, because you have declared that you have no intention of resigning, I have asked the president to remove you as of today, and he has done so. My first thought was, if this prosecution was going to bring up all these connections, I wonder if Donald Barr would have been brought up by the prosecution. And I wonder how Bill Barr felt about that. If Bill Barr had any interest at all in preventing his father's legacy from being tarnished by his connection to Epstein being brought up for the whole world to hear about and know about. And now he's in charge of this investigation. And what does he do in this investigation? First of all, he comes out and he says, this is, quote, a perfect storm of screw-ups. Everybody fucked up except for us, right? The security guards, they falsified the records. They weren't doing their job. The cameras, all outdated, old, glitchy, and they don't work and they don't record. And then all of a sudden they do record and they found the footage. And then he said he saw it and there's nothing to see here. 9 days after Epstein's death, Bill Barr removed the director of the Federal Bureau of Prisons, Hugh Hurwitz, from his post, which a lot of people said kind of gave Fall Guy vibes. And there was a series of Fall Guys so Bill Barr went on this like Fall Guy rampage. So first he ordered the warden of MCC to be reassigned. The 2 guards who were supposed to be watching Epstein were placed on leave. Then he ordered these investigations by the FBI and the Department of Justice Office of the Inspector General to determine what happened. They determined he did it to himself. Don't worry about the fact that in this prosecution of this guy, a lot of powerful people's names would come up. I want to talk about Epstein's cellmate and also all the weird things that were surrounding the prison and the days leading up to Epstein's death, pretty much everything leading up to his death was weird. Okay. Like he changed the will. And then when he came out on the stretcher, I remember people being like, his earlobe is different. It was crazy stuff. And then his cellmate, although they say that Tartaglione was not his cellmate at the time, they used him as a critical witness in the investigation to establish the fact that he had attempted to take his own life before. So using Tartaglione as a witness in the investigation after Epstein's death really helped solidify the official story that he took his own life. They literally referred to him as a, quote, critical witness, taking his word for it. Nice. Guess we just taking anybody's word for shit now. Nicholas Taglioni. It's editing me, and God damn it, I hate doing this, but for a large chunk of the video, I say Nicholas Taglioni when it's Tartaglione. And I'm sorry. I would re-record, but I simply don't have the time. It is what it is. Nicholas Taglioni was a police officer, and also he had anger problems and roid rage, you could say, but maybe even before the roid rage, he just had rage. It starts at the Mount Vernon Police Department, where he only serves 1 year before he gets transferred to Yonkers. And then in Yonkers, he only lasts for 13 weeks. He doesn't stay anywhere too long, except for prison. By 1997, he is in this beef with this local television host. His name is Clay Tiffany.
Police officer Nicky Nasty Tartaglione is attempting, get this, folks, to get back on the Mount Vernon police force. That's where he started. Remember, he went from Mount Vernon to Yonkers, and according to a police source, he had to leave Yonkers because of illegal activity involving him and his family. Then he went up to Pauling, and of course, Briarcliff hired him. 4 places in about 4.5 years.
You're going to see this thing about Nicholas Taglioni. If there's a complaint to file, Nick is filing a complaint. After he leaves the Pauling Police Department, he ends up joining the Village of Briarcliff Police Department. Now, this is at the end of 1996, and this is a wealthy town or village, and it's in Westchester County, and it's very small. And this is where like a lot of the drama and the connections come in. Clayton Clay Tiffany was the TV host of this public access TV show called Dirge or the Charlatans. And in this show, he used it basically to accuse people of corruption and abuse of power. And depends on who you ask, this guy was very polarizing. Some people hated him. They thought that he was confrontational for no reason, always stirring up trouble, false accusations, making problems with people.
Are there any other reporters besides 12? Are you a reporter? Which paper? Are you Stacy? Oh, hi. Taglione. And I'm moving back because the last time he almost killed me. You might want to talk to the guy that Tartaglione almost killed twice. That's me. Think about it. Briarcliff didn't put him up on charges for assaulting and trying to kill me twice. Plus, he beat me up 2 other times. And there's about 10 or 11 victims in Pauling, New York, according to Ken Lynch. Did you hear that? Was that a Briarcliff cop? They don't even have to hide it in Briarcliff. It's Klan country.
Other people thought he was this unsung hero, that he was like actually trying to tell people the truth about what was going on. And in some cases, that really was the case, because especially with Nicholas Taglioni, at the time, people thought he was harassing him and crazy, but he was vindicated because Nicholas Taglioni turned out to be this horrible murderer who killed 4 people in the most brutal way. So Clay was onto something with that. He would also mock them on TV, kind of like a bully.
What a prissy, smug, self-satisfied, but essentially devoid of masculinity voice and demeanor Andy Jr. has, that the tenants were appallingly mistreated by Andy O'Rourke Jr., landlord. Don't these human beings deserve heat in a building that they're paying rent in? Don't they? Or is the fact that 3 of them are from Africa and are black, one of them's Puerto Rican, and the other 2 guys are not living on Easy Street, does that mitigate? Quote, very possibly that they could have frozen to death if the boiler had not been installed the day it was. Quote, very possibly that they could have frozen to death About half the people working people in America are not insured for health insurance. Every industrial country in the world, except for the United States, has universal health care. Outside Andy Jr. said to me after one of these court sessions, "Poke it up your A," and you know the rest of that word. You know, Andy O'Rourke Jr. has like a fixation on homosexuality. What do you think that's all about? Hmm? Anybody got any suggestions? Projection? Wishful thinking? Sergeant Riley had a video camera on his beefy shoulder, and he was pointing said camera at me as he waddled around following me and harassing me, even though I told the obese Sergeant Riley to stop shadowing me and leave me alone. Remember, Nick Tartaglione stands accused of harassing and worse of a 26-year-old woman at the scene of an accident, of coercing her through unethical means to give her her phone number under duress, and then harassing her, her mother, her stepfather on the phone for months. Thank you very much. See you later.
You either love him or you hate him kind of guy. And Nicholas Taglioni hated him. And so he actually allegedly beat him up brutally.
Nick Tartaglione also threatened me, sent me to the hospital, and told me he is connected to the mob on 3/25/97. Nick Tartaglione stalked me with a witness witnessing this on May 17th, 1997. Yet at the behest of ADA Lynn Farrell, putative judge Fred Weinstein issued an order of protection against me in regard to this rogue cop, Nick Tartaglione. Anyway, Nicky Boy told the young woman at the scene of the accident that the reason that he left Mount Vernon and Yonkers police departments was because there was too much crime and it was too dangerous. Poor baby. Could it be that in Yonkers and Mount Vernon, there are too many blacks and Latinos who he masked?
According to Clay, he would pull him over without cause, give him all these citations and tickets, again, without cause, lie about it, and that he beat him up one time so bad. He showed how he looked from the hospital bed in this clip, and it's like he got so mad even looking at this clip of himself. Like, you could tell that, like, oh, I mean, who wouldn't be mad if they got beat up like that?
Now, let's go back to what I look like after Nick Tartaglione, whom Linda Mangano has on at least 2 occasions now asked the Ossining Village Board to give Nick Tartaglione a humanitarian award. And can you put on, my man in the other room, the video of what I look like after Nick Tartaglione beat me up the 4th time? All right, see that? See that? And I have pictures taken by the FBI that are worse.
And then in 1999, Nicholas got in trouble with the law. There was this perjury charge that he got, and that led to a suspension. This was related to a DWI arrest that Nicholas made, where he later on lied about what went down during that arrest. Briarcliff Manor Police Department ends up serving him this notice of charges, which alleges violation of department rules, and he was accused of conduct prejudicial to the good order and efficiency of the department. As you can imagine, Nick took it all the way to court, and he ended up actually getting acquitted. But despite that, he got dismissed from the police force. And this is when he starts suing them to get reinstated, which actually eventually he does. And then this is also the time where there's this overlap that I should mention. Now, it's just a jurisdictional overlap, but in my research of stuff, trying to find connections and stuff, I found this. What I did was I cross-referenced anybody who was on the flight logs, the Little Black Book, or had photographs with Epstein that was a public figure, and then I cross-referenced them with Nicholas Taglioni to see if there were any connections. And who popped up? One person, and that is Donald Trump. And the connection is purely jurisdictional. I just want to say that. It's just a fact that I am giving you. It doesn't mean anything, okay? Don't sue me. But this is the fact that I found, is that Donald Trump owns, at the time, the Trump National Club in Westchester, which is located in Briarcliff Manor, New York, the same jurisdiction of the police department at the same time that Nicholas Taglioni was there. So this golf club opened in 2002. Nicholas Tartaglioni, have I been saying Nicholas Tartaglioni served as a police officer in Briarcliff Manor in Westchester, New York from 1996 till 2008. All this means is that If there was any type of VIP visit that needed to happen and you needed local police, or if someone called 911 from the golf club, or if there was any sort of thing like that where there was any contact with police, it would have been at the police department where Nicholas Tartaglione was a cop. Okay, that is it. It's a small town. Doesn't mean that they know each other or ever met or anything. I'm just telling you what I found because I did do that cross-reference, and that's all I got. While we're on the topic of Donald Trump, when I was editing, what's his name, Clay Tiffany's TV show, Dirge for the Charlatans, he did mention Donald Trump.
So a cop is allowed to fire 13 rounds at an unarmed 15-year-old child and critically wound the boy, and DA Janine Pirro does nada. Remember, DA Janine Pirro's husband's clients or business associates have helped her raise at least 1/5 of the private donations to her campaign treasury, which I believe is over $1 million already and climbing. Included in that list is notorious womanizer Donald Trump. Just dumped his last wife, bragged about the fact that if he'd stayed married to her for a little longer, she'd be entitled to more money. What a fine guy. Remember that even though Lebanese, Janine Pirro has never criticized Israel for having legalized torture of the Palestinians, fellow Arabs. Remember that Janine Pirro has never criticized the sleazy Senator Al D'Amato for his attempts to intercede on behalf of mafia dons who were guilty of murder, extortion, drug dealing, etc.
Now we need to talk about Nick's lawsuits, because this guy, like I told you from the beginning, he loves filing complaints. He ended up having multiple lawsuits with the police department, okay? Although he got acquitted from any criminal charges, he did get fired. And so he ends up suing the Briarcliff Manor Police Department for wrongful termination. And he ends up in 2003 getting reinstated. Also in 2003, Clay Tiffany, the TV host, sues Nicholas Tartaglione. And he sues him for false arrest and excessive force. Remember, he beat him to a pulp. By 2008, Nicholas Tartaglione retires from the police force, and he also files for disability, saying he had a back injury, and then he becomes addicted to steroids. He spirals, okay? On the outside, it seems like he's this really great guy. He's got this property and these animals, and he allegedly rescues them and all this stuff, but also he's abusing steroids, and then he's going to become this drug dealer and is selling steroids to bodybuilders. Also, he gets into car sales, just all kinds of shady shit. In 2014, remember that lawsuit that Clay Tiffany sued Nicholas for false arrest and excessive force? He wins the lawsuit and he gets $1.1 million. The sad thing is that soon after winning this lawsuit, is found dead. And the way he is found dead is actually very sad and depressing, because he was found dead in his apartment, they say due to natural causes, but nobody found him for 2 weeks. That same year is when Nicholas Tartaglione gets involved in cocaine dealing. Not just steroids, now it's cocaine. It is not some small time shit. We're talking trafficking. I don't know if it was the roids or the coke or both, but he starts to suspect his associate, a guy called Martin Luna, of stealing $250,000 from him in this deal that they were supposed to do. He feels like this guy screwed him over and took his money, and he's mad about it. Nick and his two goons, one guy is called Joseph Biggs, who's a school security guard, and the other guy is called Gerard Benderoth, who's a retired officer and weightlifter. I guess they're all doing roids and coke. It was April 11th, 2016. And it all started with this lure that they did to Nicholas's brother's restaurant, and it was called Liquid Lounge. It is a bar, actually, not a restaurant, and it's in Chester, New York. And they basically lure Martin Luna to come meet them at his brother's bar. Not knowing that he's walking to his death, he brings his family members with him who have nothing to do with this drug dealing that he's doing, okay? He brings Miguel Luna and Urbano Santiago, who are his two nephews, and he also brings this family friend called Hector Gutierrez. All three of them have no idea about what he's doing and have nothing to do with this deal. They're just there with him, okay? And they're all going to end up dead. This is so brutal because Nicholas Tartaglione is very sadistic, very brutal, because he ends up torturing Martin Luna for over an hour, and not just torturing him, but making his nephews and his friend watch, okay? And he's telling him, you stole my money, where's my money, give me my money, all this type of shit. And the thing is, Martin Luna is like, I didn't take the money, I didn't do anything, I didn't take the money. And the more he's denying it, the more he's getting tortured. Martin Luna never told him that he took the money or where the money was. He kept till the end, he was like, I didn't do it. And so after over an hour of this, Nicholas strangles him with a zip tie in front of his family. And then he tells his two goons that are with him that we're going to take these three, the surviving ones, and we're going to go to his animal rescue where he's such a good guy. Nicholas is orchestrating all of this. He's telling the two guys that are with him what to do. They're doing it, but he's orchestrating it. They said he quarterbacked it. Okay. They make them get on their knees and then they shoot them in the back of the head at point blank range, execution style, and then get this backhoe and dig a hole in the property and bury them there on his property at the animal rescue. 8 months after this, the families were distraught and they were reporting them missing. And a former police officer who has an animal rescue, has these 4 people buried on his property. The FBI end up getting involved, and it is the FBI who end up finding out that Nicholas is responsible. And so they end up going to the property, they find the bodies, and they arrest Nicholas. Then they go to find his associates. And what happens with that is also crazy because Nicholas Tartaglione was arrested December 19th, 2016, and he gets indicted for multiple counts of murder, kidnapping, and narcotics conspiracy. The former police officer, Gerard Benderoth, he ends up shooting himself February 2017 after he was on the run and they finally found him. As the FBI agents were coming to arrest him, he shot himself. Former security guard, and then there was another accomplice also, Jason Sullivan. They ended up cooperating with authorities, and they would end up being a big part of Nicholas being arrested and put in prison because they testified and stuff. While awaiting trial, Nicholas Tartaglione is placed at the Metropolitan Correctional Center, MCC, in Manhattan. This is also where Jeffrey Epstein is going to be, and this is where they cross paths. Before Jeffrey Epstein comes into this prison, Nicholas Tartaglione is doing what he always does, which is what? Complain. He's complaining about the conditions as a police officer who's put a bunch of people in jail, and now he's complaining. He's saying that it's unsanitary. He says there's rodents in there, mold, water leaks, and poor treatment. It's a damn jail. What do you think? They're going to hold your hand, kiss your ass? Anyway, so he requests transfer after transfer. It even gets to a point where a judge actually ordered improving his conditions, but they would not transfer him. Here comes July 6, 2019. Jeffrey Epstein is arrested. And who do they place with Jeffrey Epstein? Nicholas Tartaglione. And this was at the Special Housing Unit. Shortly after, on July 23rd, 2019, is where we have that incident. And the reports at that time were conflicting as well. They were saying that Epstein said that his cellmate did that to him. Then other reports said he did it to himself. That one thing said he was found crying in the fetal position.
He was found on the floor, crying, semi-lucid, and depressed, we're told.
Several sources tell us the initial report is that Jeffrey Epstein was found on the floor in his cell in a fetal position.
A lawyer who met with Jeffrey Epstein days before his death says Epstein told him he'd never tried to kill himself.
And then they take him to the infirmary. And it is from the beginning, immediately, Epstein says that Nicholas Tartaglione tried to kill him. When the guard was escorting him out of that cell to take him to the infirmary, he said, quote, "Tartaglione tried to kill me." According to the official report that was done after his death, this is an internal MCC report and a report by the Department of Justice Inspector General's investigation. This is what they determined. They say that Epstein initially told his lawyers and prison staff that Tartaglione attacked him and was trying to strangle him. Then Tartaglione denied that he attacked Epstein. He actually said that he came and found him unconscious, that he had done this to himself, and that actually he was the one that saved his life and called the guards. Tartaglione even says, "I gave him the lower bunk because he was old and I was afraid he would fall and hurt himself. Like, I was concerned for his health and his well-being." Tartaglione was like, "I was on the top bunk and I had my headphones on, and then all of a sudden I hear this loud thud. I look down and I see Epstein slumped over with this bed sheet around his neck. I went there to help him and I called the guards. I saved his life. I didn't try to kill him." The thing is, the investigation couldn't conclude conclusively what happened. Why? Why do you think? Because nothing was working camera-wise, or even camera lost the footage. Interestingly, lost the footage due to a technical error. So no video was preserved of what happened. And it's so interesting that when another incident happened, there was also no footage of it. And then when there was footage at the other incident where he actually did die, that footage was edited and also didn't even show anything. Oh, the cameras weren't working. What about the humans? Were the humans working? Oh no, the humans weren't working either. They falsified the records. It's interesting. It's just a very interesting series of coincidences that only benefit the perpetrators of such crimes. Epstein did retract his initial statement. According to this report, they said not only did he retract it and say that, no, Tartaglione didn't try to strangle me and kill me. I did this to myself. He also said, I want to be put back in the cell with him. Weird. So after this incident, Epstein gets put on suicide watch. That's my version of not wanting to say unaliving and wanting to say the real word, but not wanting to get the thing that I always get whenever I say that word, which is YouTube starts sending me messages being like, are you okay? Do you need help? And then I get the little banner saying, call the hotline. So, I don't want to say it, but they put him on unaliving watch. They do this investigation, by the way, and they clear Tartaglione of any wrongdoing. And they conclude that this was either staged or he was practicing for the real thing or something. They don't know what it is, but they're like, it wasn't Tartaglione. He didn't do anything wrong. Epstein retracted it. We'll just put him on watch. And he did have an inmate with him, but also coincidentally and weirdly, that inmate was then removed from his cell the day before he was found dead. And there's no good reason for that either. It could just be that it really genuinely happened. And he was like, perfect time. I'm going to do it because I guess only the inmate is going to stop it. The security guards and the cameras aren't watching me. So yeah, I'll do it only when they remove the inmate. Not because the inmate could be a witness to anything. No. Because Epstein knew that what the cameras didn't work and the security guards weren't there. These are the facts about Epstein's cellmate status. So following the July 23rd incident, he was moved to solitary watch. After that, he was moved to a different cell. So for about 1 week, which is July 30th to August 9th, he had a cellmate called Ephraim Stone. It was his nickname, Reyes. This cellmate was moved out the day before his death, so that Epstein was alone in his cell on the final night. Tartaglione was in the same housing unit at MCC, so he was there, but he was in a different cell. Of course, there was no footage inside the cell. That also was a problem.
Last month, Metropolitan Correctional Center officials said they couldn't find it. A day later, they announced they did have it. But now, federal prosecutors say the video no longer exists and that MCC, quote, inadvertently preserved video from the wrong tier.
Then it got found, remember? And Bill Barr is the one who saw it and told us he saw it and there was nothing there. Now, the footage that we did have that did get released recently, even that full footage doesn't actually show the entrance to Epstein's cells.
Government officials say it's proof that no one entered his cell tier.
There's video clear as day. He's the only person in there and the only person coming out. You can see it.
Malfunctioning equipment meant only one camera recorded the general area, and that camera captured part of the common area, including the officer's station and a sliver of the staircase leading to Epstein's cell. The pathway from the entrance to the stairs is completely out of view of the camera, leaving ample room for someone to enter unseen.
We're going to give the original so you don't think there were any shenanigans.
But a review by multiple video forensic experts found several indications this may not be raw footage. At 11:21 p.m., a cursor appears briefly, indicating the video may have actually been a recording of a computer screen. Experts told CBS News the video's metadata shows it's made from 2 clips edited together. Then, at 11:58 p.m., the video suddenly jumps to midnight, and the aspect ratio shifts.
Also found this other connection that is also just a connection, but not really proof of anything, but I figured I would mention it. And it has to do with the FBI director, James Comey, in that his daughter was the prosecutor who worked on both Epstein and Tartaglione's case. So although Jeffrey was Epstein's lead prosecutor on the case, there was another prosecutor that was on Epstein's case that was also the prosecutor in Tartaglione's case, and that was FBI Director James Comey's daughter, Maureen Comey. When I was looking at this online, there were a lot of people that were taking it as like proof of a conspiracy theory and like deep state and all the different connections and stuff like that. But you do with it what you want, but that is just a fact that I have for you. Let's talk about Nicholas Tartaglione and what happened after Epstein's death. He says that he started to get retaliation because of the incident that he had with Epstein and the scrutiny that the MCC facility started getting after Epstein's death, and that they retaliated against him. So as he does, as you can expect, he started filing complaints. And in these complaints, he alleged that they confiscated his CPAP breathing machine and that they subjected him to abuse after Epstein died. And then a judge actually in 2019 and again in 2020 ordered improvements to Tartaglione's confinement conditions, which I thought was quite interesting as well, because whenever he complains, they seem to comply. By 2023, he had his trial, he was found guilty, and he was sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences, and this was in 2024. Then, the last thing that I have for you is this bombshell allegation that Nicholas Tartaglione made November 2025 about Trump and Epstein and the prosecutor. And it's when he's requesting a pardon. And in this claim, he's saying that Epstein confided in him and told him that the prosecution offered him a secret deal if he were to implicate Trump. And he was offering this information, Nicholas Tartaglione, to Trump, hopefully for a pardon, I'm assuming, because it was part of his, pardon request. He claims that Epstein said that it was Maureen Comey, remember the daughter of James Comey, FBI director, who told him he wouldn't need to prove anything specific, quote, as long as President Trump's people could not disprove it, end quote. And that Epstein was pressured to say that President Trump was involved and that if he did so, he would walk free. He also said that Epstein told him that the FBI was basically working against Trump. Some people say he's telling the truth. This really happened. Some people say he's lying. He's just trying to get a pardon. Maybe it's a little bit of both. Why is he just saying that now? As of now, that pardon hasn't been granted, but who knows what happens? There's still time. We'll see how this shit plays out. I'm very curious to see what happens. That's kind of what started this video for me. Wouldn't it be insane if he got pardoned? That would be actually crazy. And you know what just hit me? Barr was working for the CIA in the 70s while his dad was headmaster of this elite school and writing this nasty book and hiring Jeffrey Epstein. This was all happening in the 70s at the same time. There were already rumors swirling and observations and people talking about Epstein behaving inappropriately with young girls when he was a teacher at Dalton in the 70s. It's the timing of it all. What I'll have for you next time. Maybe it'll be another Epstein-Barr flare-up. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching. Have a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy winter solstice, happy whatever the hell, okay? Just happy. Just be happy, bitch.
Here is what happened in geopolitics in the last 24 hours. Iran vows revenge for U.S. Kharg Island bombing and threatens retaliation. China warns Iran, war flames spreading to Asia, urges immediate ceasefire. Saudi Arabia cancels April F1 race due to Iran war security risks. UAE Fujairah port halts oil loading after drone attack amid Iran war. Britain discusses options to secure Hormuz Strait amid Iran war threats. Trump urges Japan send warships to Hormuz Strait for shipping safety. Iran war hits India oil imports economy with Russian supply issues. U.S. lifts Russian oil sanctions, drawing European criticism amid Iran war. France highlights Middle East defense pushes to secure Hormuz Strait. Germany Merz criticizes Trump-Iran war policy as flawed escalatory.
Okay, listen. Benjamin Netanyahu is not dead, and that little TikTok funeral everybody's throwing for him is garbage. Looking image started babbling about hands and shadows and whatever else their phone-addled brains coughed up, and now they suddenly think they've cracked an international assassination story from the toilet. No, that's not how this works. As of March 15th, 2026, current reporting shows that he is alive. His office pushed back on the rumor. He even posted a video mocking the whole thing as a stupid hoax. There's also a Reuters report from March 12th, 26, showing him speaking publicly during a regional conflict, which is a pretty solid clue that he was not, in fact, secretly dead while TikTok Film School was circling one bad frame like vultures. And that's really the whole disease, isn't it? One cursed-looking image goes by. Maybe the hand looks strange. Maybe the video glitches. Maybe the compression chews up the face like old lunch meat. And suddenly everybody on the app becomes a forensic analyst with a ring light and no editor. Here's your basic reality test. If a sitting prime minister had actually been killed, you would not be hearing about it first from a stitched TikTok with dramatic bass and captions the size of a bus ad. You would see major wire services, official statements, every newsroom on earth losing bladder control all at once, and that has not happened. So no, Netanyahu is not dead. That frame is fake looking because the internet is full of fake looking junk, low quality video, AI slop, and people who confuse vibes with evidence, which is not research. That is just a phone and feelings.
You might have heard by now that the Secretary of Defense/War Hegseth, blew through nearly $100 billion in the month of September because it turned out they had extra money in the Pentagon budget. And if they didn't spend it, then the budget would be reduced by that amount next year. So they were like, can't have that. Let's go on a full spending spree. Pentagon officials bought a $100,000 Steinway grand piano for the Air Force Chief of Staff. They spent $5.3 million on Apple devices, just a new iPad for everyone. You want an Apple Watch? Here you go. They also just spent an astronomical amount on fancy boy food, including $2 million for Alaskan king crab and $6.9 million for lobster tail and $15 million for ribeye steaks, $124,000 for ice cream machines, and $139,000 for donuts. In the month of September, Doge fired half of the State Department, shuttered USAID, defunded child cancer research and FEMA at the same time these Pentagon bros were building a makeup room and changing all the signs and letterheads and apparently having a shellfish feast. The government keeps telling us that we can't afford Medicaid and Medicare, that we have to cancel the ACA tax credits, that we can't afford to pay for school lunches or Meals on Wheels or afford SNAP benefits. But Hegseth is buying his buddies $100,000 pianos. This pretty little jackass spent $100 billion in a single month and still has the audacity to ask Congress for another $50 billion to fund his Middle East disaster war. The Ways and Means or Finance and Budget Committee from both the House and the Senate need to investigate this. First of all, there is no way there isn't a grift here. I don't care how expensive lobster tail is. It's not that expensive. And I can promise you that the entire U.S. military was not eating crab legs and ribeyes. I think it is far more likely, as it was with Kristi Noem's $220 million ad, that the cost of the thing was one price and the remainder of the money went in someone else's pocket. And if you had all this extra money at the Department of Defense, maybe you should be spending it on, I don't know, updating enlisted housing or healthcare or ammunition that we are apparently running out of. Maybe $100 billion could have gone into a new GI fund for veteran education. But no, Pete went with Steinways and donuts. The incompetence, the waste, fraud, and abuse from these people is nauseating. And I truly don't believe the American taxpayer should have to continue to fund it. Lest I remind you, the Pentagon just failed their audit for the 8th year in a row. So these extraordinary payments are the ones we know about. They're just the tip of the iceberg. The Pentagon controls nearly $4.6 trillion and literally can't account for it. I don't care what your political persuasion is. This cannot be all right with you.
Leaked documents came out showing that the United Arab Emirates is in cahoots and actively Gaza, and then also geopolitical moves, defense training, military intelligence sharing. Truly a very intense, close relationship. Also, of course, has to do with Somalia and the splitting of Somaliland. So the Israelis and the Emiratis are incredibly, incredibly close. The Emiratis, for those who don't know, Saudi Arabia and the UAE are, I would say, both kind of working and striving for regional superiority. And there's always some tension between the two countries. But the UAE specifically is something else. The level of closeness the UAE has to the Israelis is shocking. So this was originally reported in the Cradle. Leaked documents reveal UAE proposal to back Israel's genocide in Gaza by all means necessary. The Emirati proposals call for strengthening the sister state of Israel in its war on terrorists on the Gaza Strip. A leaked document obtained by Emirati Leaks outlet has revealed an Emirati government proposal to use UAE bases in the Red Sea to provide direct intelligence and logistics support to Israel throughout its war in Gaza. The document dates back to 2023 and addresses the joint operations of the UAE armed forces. And it was written by representatives of the UAE Red Crescent Authority. So, I mean, the document is so detailed. It's about 18 pages long. I took some screenshots of it. Of course, it was all written in Arabic, so I had to actually toss it into a translator. So this, the translations are a little bit off, but they call them the sister country. We are pleased to submit to your highness and our leaders in this joint operation this document, which details all preparations and agreements made to support and strengthen the Strait of Israel in its war against the terrorists in Palestine. It says Zionist terrorists. I think that must have been a translation thing. From our bases in the southern Red Sea, Yemen, Eritrea, and Somalia. It is worth noting the financing and logistics support provided by Qatar. Of course, the UAE, incredibly, just there's huge rivalry there. And their support provided by Kuwait is sufficient to hinder the movements along the southern Red Sea. So it's shocking to see. I mean, for those who don't know, there's so many videos. The relationship between the UAE and Israel, their geopolitical strategies and their geopolitical alignment it's honestly very one and the same. Everything that Israel is trying to do geopolitically, which includes the splitting of Somalia and the separatist movement of Somaliland, the UAE is 100% backing that. For those who don't know, the UAE is heavily supporting, both diplomatically and behind the scenes, arms, everything that it could do to help with the separatist movement in Somaliland, and then also to help with a separatist movement in Yemen, which is also exactly what Israel is trying to do. The reason for that being is because what they want to have is they want to have two sides of the Red Sea, basically where they can have their own regional bases. By splitting Somalia off from Somaliland, they can counter the Houthis, and then by splitting the opposition to the Houthis in Yemen, they could do the same thing. And Israel and the UAE are like this. They're both doing the same thing. Of course, the UAE also has its regional interest in Sudan. And it's shocking to see how much a lot of Arabs say, you know, that UAE really did sell out the Middle East for Israel. And getting these documents showed even further. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys a few more documents here. The level of training. Again, supporting community initiatives seek to increase social cohesion between the two countries. And providing media, cultural, intellectual support, which contributes to strengthening stability on the cultural level, again, between the UAE and Israel. On the diplomatic level, opening the embassy of the United Arab Emirates in the capital of Israel, Tel Aviv, and in return, the state of Israel opening its embassy in the capital of the UAE, Abu Dhabi, exchanging ambassadors and holding high-level bilateral visits of trade between the two countries. Close cohesion and integrated cooperation between the United Arab Emirates and the state of Israel in the field of counterterrorism, intelligence sharing, and military technology, development of UAE-Israeli relations in points, and it goes on and it talks. It says a little bit more. Here's another document from it. A screenshot is supply of a base in Somalia to Israel, preparing and equipping ships and storing their current cargo in the warehouses, allocating the transfer of supplies to Israel. The reasons stem from Qatar's close monitoring of bases, which has strong influence and presence in the region. And it goes on, it just talks about how much they have to just work together against Qatar. We have ascertained the impact of Qatari actions in this particular matter when it comes to the Qatari's geopolitical moves, also including the state of Kuwait. Despite support both provide to Hamas and other groups in Palestine, and also the substantial allocation Kuwait has designated for monitoring and obstructing our movement in the southern Red Sea. So truly, the level of cooperation the two countries have is shocking. And then also what's really interesting, and I mean, the UAE it's a Muslim country, but what's so interesting about it is the UAE spends millions and millions of dollars overseas on anti-Muslim propaganda campaigns, or I guess actually they try to specify it as anti-extremists. But it's a lot of it, they're just pushing truly anti-Muslim stuff, which to me, I mean, it doesn't matter what religion you are, it just seems kind of odd that they're doing that. But they especially do this in the United Kingdom, actually. There was a recent article that came out stating that the UAE doesn't want to support its students going to the UK to study because they're worried they're going to be propagandized by extremism. This just came out a couple of days ago. JD Vance then quote tweets that and is acting all shocked and surprised. But the UAE and Israel very much so are in cahoots. And what seems to be happening now is they're both working on pushing and supporting separatist movements across the Middle East and North Africa in order to advance their financial goals. They both have a lot of stakes in different countries across the Middle East and North Africa. Israel, of course, is trying to capture regional hegemony while also weakening every single Arab state, separating so that way none of them can be a substantial threat to Israel. And the UAE, as long as they're making a lot of money and millions of dollars from it, billions and billions of dollars from it, they'll be completely fine, all in line with the Zionist agenda. So it's shocking to see. Also, another interesting thing to note, there's been a lot of videos circulating where you'll see Emiratis actually hosting parties with Israeli officials, singing to Hebrew songs together, dancing, bringing rabbis over to the Emirates and having them speak and really integrating the Israeli-UAE connection. They really push staunch anti-Semitism laws. So they really have it captured from every angle. And if you go on X, you'll also see that a lot of them sort of condemn and try to separate themselves from the Palestine movement. Now, am I saying that all people in the UAE are like this? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The government, however, does have a lot of incentives to do that. So Pretty interesting documents that were recently released. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments below. Also, if you found this video interesting, I'd appreciate it if you click the subscribe button and give it a thumbs up as well. It helps me reach more people like you. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care. Bye.
Welcome in, everyone. I hope you guys are doing great wherever you're watching. Running critically low on interceptors, as well as the United States unleashing a new wave of attacks, plus several more updates to get into, including whether or not Bibi Netanyahu is alive or dead after 2 days worth of nonstop rumors. So we got a lot to get into. Before we get into it, as always, please make sure to like and subscribe. Totally free. Cost you guys absolutely nothing at all. Huge boost to the channel. Let me know what you think in the comments below. How do you think the war is going? What do you think of the footage? Is Israel starting to show cracks in its air defenses? Let me know in the comments below. Hit the notification bell. All notifications turned on. You won't miss a thing. And then Instagram, David_Hookstead, XD That's where you can find me online. My DMs are wide open. Send me any tips you got. Give me a follow on both sites. Now let's get into it. So I'm going to put this up on the screen right away. This is a fire that broke out after more direct missile hits launched by Iran hit Israel. Let's go ahead and give it a watch. Fire. So you can see on your screen here massive amounts of smoke in the distance after Israel taking another direct hit from an Iranian missile as the air defenses are starting to let more through. We're going to talk about that in a second. And then right here, fire breaks out at a different place after the missile strike. You can see a massive fire in the distance. So Israel's air defenses, which held up incredibly strong at the start, are starting to show cracks, as seemingly every time the Iranians fire, they're at least getting some level of contact on the ground. And then right here, this is security camera footage showing a cluster bomb direct impact. Right there, boom. Watch it again. So right there, direct impact. And I'll put this on the screen now. Iran releasing footage of their, I believe it's pronounced Sajil missile, one of their biggest, most advanced missiles they have, firing them across the region. This is footage of Iran continuing to fire missiles, even if their rate of fire has decreased greatly. We got to call balls and strikes here. And the fact of the matter is, Iran is still showing it has some launch capabilities. Now, this is a massive story. Huge story. A lot of people talking about it in D.C. A lot of people in the government talking about it. A lot of people in the military talking about it. This is from Shelby Talcott at Semaphore, who, of course, is my fiance. Says Israel is running critically low on interceptors, U.S. officials say. We scroll down here. It says Israel informed the U.S. this week that it is running critically low on ballistic missile interceptors as the conflict with Iran rages on. U.S. officials told Semaphore Israel had reportedly entered the current war already low on interceptors that were fired during last summer's conflict with Iran. Israel's long-range defense system has been strained under Iran's attack. And then right here, I'll highlight this. The U.S. has been aware of Israel's low capacities for months. One U.S. official said it's something we expected and anticipated. And then furthermore, this official emphasized to Semaphore that the U.S. is not running similarly low on interceptors of its own. That comment comes amid broader concerns about interceptor depletion from a longer military engagement in Iran, leaving the U.S. in poor position. Israel Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar on Sunday denied that the country is low on interceptors, the Jerusalem Post reported. So I want to be very careful what I say here. I can't really get into a lot, but this has always been a concern with Israel. It is a numbers game. How many interceptors do you have versus how many launchers and ballistic missiles does the other side have? In this case, Iran. And can you eliminate their launchers and missiles before they deplete you of interceptors? This is called missile math. Now we are learning reports that while there's no question the United States is winning this, we'll have to monitor very, very, very closely. All right. Having said that, let's shift to the other side now, to the United States of America. We have more strike footage as the United States continues to put a beat down on Iran. Let's watch. This is at Esfahan. Massive fires burning as a new wave of airstrikes unfolds. And then right here, this is heavy bombardment of IRGC and Basij in Hamadan, northwestern Iran. So you can see the massive explosions, smoke rising, the situation getting more and more dire. This is Tehran. I can't stand the voice manipulation here, but what you can see here is more massive explosions in the background. You can see it right there in the distance as more bombs have hit. And then right here, we have warplanes, U.S. fighter jets in the air, flying incredibly low. As the war continues to rage on. And then right here, more footage out of Esfahan. You can see the skyline burning with fires after multiple U.S. waves of airstrikes coming in, pummeling targets on the ground. Now, Esfahan is very important. That is where they are hiding their enriched uranium. If we want that uranium, we will likely need a ground operation. So what they're doing now is they're setting the conditions, setting the table, making sure that there's the defenses at Esfahan are hit and obliterated before that starts. And then right here, major airstrike on an IRGC facility, completely obliterated. You can see that in the distance right there. Unreal. And then this is the aftermath of the Tarshat Space Research Center after the U.S. hit it hard. The building completely in flames, completely destroyed. Absolute and total destruction. And then right here, we have a communications building that has been hit. You can see an insane level of smoke rising. And then right here, an Iranian drone and missile hit the Sheikh Isa Air Force Base in Bahrain. So Bahrain, yet again, under attack. Bahrain has been a heavy target since the war started. It has taken several direct hits as the situation continues to escalate. And then right here, this is a U.S. jet over Shababar, Iran. So we have two videos of jets in the air going to show that we do have complete control of their airspace. Now, next up, U.S. releasing footage of more strikes on missile launchers and anti-aircraft positions. You can see the direct hits as they as they unfold, I should say. The destruction of the Iranian regime continues with overwhelming military force. And right here are airstrikes on a drone manufacturing facility. So they are continuing to hammer away wherever they can find targets. And then lastly, for the last 2 days, there has been a nonstop rumor mill that Benjamin Netanyahu is dead. I don't know why this started. I don't know how it started. I don't really understand why so many people are pushing it. There's never been any real evidence that that's true. Well, he released a video today making it very clear that he is alive. So what he's doing here is he is making fun of the rumors that it was an AI video with 6 fingers showing that he has all of his fingers on his hand. So again, I don't know where this rumor started. I don't know why it started, but Bibi Netanyahu coming out and revealing to the world he is still alive. All right, so as of this update on March 15th, we have more missiles raining down on Israel with direct hits. The United States is continuing to carry out massive airstrikes. We have reports that Israel is running low on ballistic missile interceptors. So we have a lot of moving pieces here that we are trying to shuffle and figure out what is going on. As always, I will continue to monitor the situation. Please make sure to like and subscribe. Huge boost to the channel. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time.
If he had been involved in intelligence, the first person he would have told that would be me, because I would have gotten him an even better deal. And I asked him, is there anything you can tell me, anything you can give me, any information you can give me about famous people? And I mentioned among the famous people, I mentioned presidents of the United States or anything involving intelligence. I want to have everything available to me to make the pitch to get you a better deal. And he gave me some information about Wexner and about others, but not